Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Barbados Kingdom Governance Initiative. A special welcome to those who are joining us from the Caribbean and further afield. It is our hope that you find this program not only informative but inspiring. We hope that it is motivating you to think seriously about the urgent changes we need to make to our democracy, and we also hope that it will equip you to be part of the change process. With that introduction, let us continue to talk on the theme, raising the bar of our democracy. Last week, in episode 2, we began to talk about the solutions to the problems of governance and government in Barbados. We are advancing our discussion on the basis that there are two main types of approaches to raising the bar on our democracy. There are system-wide changes and representative quality changes. Last week we examined the first system-wide solution, the power of recall of representatives. Today in episode 3, we are going to discuss another system-wide solution which can help us raise the bar on our democracy. Before we take a look at our second solution, let us quickly summarize the three major flaws or dysfunctions we found in our system of democracy. So, the next system-wide solution we must seriously consider is changing from the so-called first past the post electoral system to proportional representation. The current first past the post system means that whichever party gets a majority of seats wins the government. As you know, there are 30 constituencies in Barbados, and twice in a row, namely 2018 and 2022, one party won all 30 seats, creating effectively a one-party government. A proportional representation system is designed to prevent this from happening. The principle behind proportional representation is that each party will get a number of seats in the parliament in proportion to the number of votes that party got. There are different approaches to proportional representation, but in this episode we are going to focus on one of the simplest versions called the party list system. It is used in countries like Brazil, Spain, South Africa, Indonesia, Turkey, and Colombia. As the name suggests, in this approach, the voter does not necessarily vote for the candidates directly, but for parties. Let's look at some examples of how a proportional representation system works in principle. Let's suppose that there are three parties, A, B, and C, contesting an election. Let us assume that a total of 200,000 votes were cast and that parties got the votes shown in Exhibit 1, columns 1 and 2. The three parties will be assigned the number of seats in proportion to the percentage of votes cast for them as shown in columns 3 and 4. The percentages in columns 3 and 4 are found by expressing the number of party votes as a percentage of the total votes cast. For example, Party A's percentage is 75,000 divided by 200,000, or 38%. In this example, Party B gets 17 seats, and since it has a majority, it forms the government. If you are wondering, but how is this different from the present situation? Consider this second example. Here we have a different set of voting results as in Exhibit 2, columns 1 and 2. This is a whole different ball game because none of the three parties has a majority of the seats. In other words, Party B has the most votes, but it cannot form the government as it is because it does not have the required majority of 16 seats. When this happens, either one of the parties can form a ruling coalition with one of the other parties. For example, A could agree to form a ruling coalition with C because together they would have 17 seats. Or B could approach C to form such a coalition where together they would have 18 seats. Of course, A and B could also form a coalition, leaving C to be the opposition. But what happens if there's a large number of parties contesting an election? We'll address that question in the next segment. When such a situation occurs, the PRS might specify the minimum number of votes a party must obtain to be assigned seats. Let's take a look at such a situation. In Exhibit 3, there are 5 parties, and the minimum number of votes a party must get to obtain seats is 5,000 votes. Let's assume that the preliminary vote analysis is that shown in columns 1 and 2 of Exhibit 3. Now, if there's no minimum number of votes needed to obtain seats, the seat allocation will be determined by the analysis in columns 3 and 4. However, since there's a minimum number of 5,000 votes necessary, Party E will not be eligible for seats since it secured only 4,400 votes. So the calculations will have to be redone with the elimination of the votes gained by Party E as shown in Exhibit 4. Exhibit 5 shows what the final PRS table will look like. However, since no one party has the required majority of seats, even after this adjustment, the parties will have to form a coalition government, as explained before. According to the ERS, the Electoral Reform Society, 130 countries across the world practice some form of proportional representation. There are 195 recognized sovereign states in the world today, according to Worldometer, so that gives an idea of the popularity of proportional representation electoral systems. The main advantage of proportional representation is that every party has the potential to obtain seats. Such a system in Barbados would prevent us from having a one-party government, which unfortunately has been the case on 2 separate occasions, 2018 and 2022. It is also believed that such systems are better for the representation of minority interests. For example, in Israel, there are over 120 political parties representing various religious and other interests. The larger parties, like the Likud, seldom obtain a majority of seats, so a coalition government is the norm in Israel. Another advantage of proportional representation systems is that where there are several smaller parties, proportional representation systems can provide an opportunity for some of them to be represented in the government. According to my calculations, if we had such a system in Barbados in 2018, Solutions Barbados, a so-called third party, would have won at least 1 seat. That shows you that such a system has the potential to improve our democracy in Barbados. What we have done here is to offer a simple introduction to proportional representation systems as a basis for discussion, with the hope that we can open ourselves to alternative ways of doing things political in an effort to raise the bar on our democracy. However, there are several different approaches to proportional representation. For example, there's a system where the electorate can rank the candidates on a ballot sheet rather than just vote for one person. So go ahead and tell us what you think about proportional representation in the comments section. Would it be a good thing for Barbados? And remember when you're there to like our video. Thank you for viewing, and here is a reminder of what is coming up next.
From Australia to South America, from Russia to Africa, from the USA to the UK, the news is the same. Governments are becoming more and more the enemies of the people, rather than the servants they ought to be. The problems we are experiencing in Barbados are not unique. They may not even be as difficult as those being experienced in other countries. But the general trend is the same. Governments everywhere are becoming opponents of the people rather than their protector. What's gone wrong with government across the world? Why are governments of today so bent on depriving people of their rights and freedoms? Why is there increasing corruption in every aspect of governance, from the judiciary to medical services to education to business? The short, irrefutable answer is this: we are never going to know good government or real peace until Jesus takes full control of all governments and all kingdoms of the world, as Revelation 11 verse 15 declares. But can we do anything about our governance here and now? Are there any practical changes we can make to our democracy to address issues such as corruption and alienation? Are there any scriptural principles that the Christian community can help our system of government to embrace to make our democracy work better? More specifically, is there a role for the Church in bringing about some semblance of good governance in Barbados here and now?
And that is one of two fundamental changes which we need to demand of our democracy at this time in our political maturity.
These are just some of the questions that will be addressed in detail on this YouTube channel every Sunday at 8 p.m, starting Sunday the 7th of September. Every episode will be broadcast as a YouTube premiere, which is the next best thing to going live, because you can ask questions and make comments just as in a live show. We invite you to subscribe to the channel now to receive a reminder message for the Sunday broadcast or notification for any other videos which may be uploaded from time to time. Thank you for viewing.